kicking back on this summer breeze. Welcome to Double K's Classroom. Class is officially in session.
The following Four Aces production is for mature audiences only. Listener discretion is highly advised.
All right, and good evening. Welcome to this week's edition of Double K's Classroom. This week I am here to talk a little football, but not the football that you're thinking of. I'm not here to talk NFL, not quite yet. Along with the start of the NFL season in July, August, you begin to kick up with the talk about college football. So this week we're going to go ahead and touch on a little bit of college football, and we're going to, of course, stick with the Pac-12, the conference that I have tried to cover for the past few years. Every now and then I forget and don't end up doing something. But let's first take a look at who some of the best units around the league are. We all know that Justin Herbert from Oregon is going to be the best quarterback this season, but does he have the best team? Well, being that you have Oregon ranks in the top 10 and pretty much or in the top 5 or 6 or so, or no, top 5 of every category, best units throughout the Pac-12, I would say that they have a solid shot at winning the Pac-12 again this year, or at least getting to the Pac-12 championship game. I believe Washington won it last year. Washington as well has 4 squads in the top 10, and I believe they return a new quarterback this season. But Utah has the best running back unit. Let's see. SC has the best set of wide receivers. Oregon has the best O-line. D-line goes to Utah as well. And then the best linebacking core and defensive backs are Cal's to claim. Now, Cal should have one of the best defenses in the league, but the offense that, according to this article I'm checking out, only averaged about 21.5 points a game will definitely need to get better in order for Cal to be able to take that leap forward. Every team in the Pac-12 will start with the Pac-12 North, I believe it is. The predictions on this Athlon sports site that I'm checking out have the Washington Huskies and Oregon Ducks battling it out in the North Division, both finishing at 7-2, but with Oregon having, assume a tougher non-conference schedule. I haven't had a chance to check every team's schedule. They expect them to finish 9-3 as opposed to Washington's 11-2. So hopefully, Washington will be able to not live up to those, along with Oregon. I'm a Cal fan, sorry guys, but Cal is projected to go 3-6 in conference and 6-6 overall. They're not expecting that defense to get that much better, or that offense to get that much better as the season moves forward. Finishing right behind Stanford, who they expect to take a drop off. I believe Stanford had 10 wins last season, but they dropped off now to 7-5. Washington State will bump up to 8-4, right behind Oregon at 9-3. Washington, like I said, at 11-2. Oregon State finishes an abysmal 2-10 according to Athlon Sports. They're only in their second year underneath their new head coach Jonathan Smith, and should improve upon that. But they didn't really improve too much through recruiting, so who knows what's going to happen with them during this season. But all of those teams should be doing a little bit better and should be able to make the season interesting. I'm going to sit here and say, as a Cal fan, that Cal should be a surprise team to everybody, because I believe that they'll win more than 6 games. I believe that they may be looking at closer to 8 games, 8 wins, maybe 8-4, and a bowl thing, because I believe that they will improve upon last year's debacle of a season, because I believe that the offense will get a little bit better. But we'll see. We'll see. The Pac-12 it's called the Conference of Champions for a reason. They have the most championships in all sports out of any conference, including the ACC, et cetera, in college sports. So when you come from that type of conference, it's going to be a tough go. Like, I still say the Pac-12 has not received the respect that it deserves. Since moving to 12 teams, adding a conference championship game, they did have a couple of teams reach the pinnacle of the, I believe Oregon reached the national title game one year, and they've had a representation, with the exception for the past 2 years, maybe 3 after this year. The past 2 years, they haven't had a representative in the college football playoff. And they normally, and for the first, I want to say, like 3 years of the playoff, they had somebody representing them every year. So they will do better because they have to do better. But this conference is by no means full of slouches or full of people that can't get the job done. This conference is full of winners. And with the exception for teams like Oregon State and Cal that have not really sniffed that national title picture yet, the teams seem to be getting better every year. All right, so that's my little talk about the North. Like I said, this is an episode that's not going to last very long. It's going to be a pretty quick podcast. But let's listen to a couple of promos from the podcast and Ghost to the Stratosphere. Then I'll come back with my lesson of the day, where I talk a little bit about the not so subtle, the non-differences between LeBron, or similarities, as somebody want to say, between LeBron's move to Miami and KD's move to Golden State. You're listening to Double K's Classroom right here on the 4 Aces Presents Radio Network, Spreaker.com, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. Nope. Sorry. Wrong one.
So, what's up? Steve Fingerstyles here, the host of the podcast, spelled DA, of course. Tune in each and every week to hear what pisses me off, what angers me, what I make fun of, and of course, my crazy rants. I also have incompetent co-hosts, cool guests, and a silent producer that sucks. So what more do you need from a podcast? You can listen on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, SoundCloud, and the Pod Bros Network. Peace.
From the galactic depths of the comic book universe comes the Ghosts of the Stratosphere, ready to galvanize and energize your mind with the latest of comic book news and reviews. And why are you stopping me? Yes, that's much better. Hi, this is Andy Larson for Ghosts of the Stratosphere. Join me every week along with my co-hosts Rob Stewart and Chad Smith, as well as a cavalcade of fantastic comic book guests, as we dish out heaping helpings of the greatest and latest of comic book news and reviews. New shows posted every Tuesday with bonus shows every first Friday of the month. You can find us on iTunes and Stitcher under Ghosts of the Stratosphere, as well as on our website, www.gotstratosphere.com. Hope to see you soon, folks.
Tune in, folks. It's now time for Double K's lesson of the day.
Hey guys, this is Venice, and I've got a message from a friend of mine about my favorite podcast.
It's your boy, Flavor Flav and Full Effect. Check.
All right. Sorry about that, guys. It went on into the next whatchamacallits with me thing. Jumped past me quickly. All right, so lesson of the day. Thank you for joining me. Look, there's a lot of people out there that talk about, there's a huge difference between what LeBron did in Miami and what KD did with Golden State. I'm going to tell you exactly how they're pretty much exactly the same things outside of the two people that they're doing it with and the two teams. The Miami Heat, when bringing in LeBron James and Chris Paul, basically jettisoned their entire roster, short of, I believe it was Mario Chalmers, Udonis Haslem, and Dwayne Wade from the previous year in order to build this team with LeBron James and Chris Bosh, et cetera, and all the role players that they got. They literally jettisoned like 90% of their squad, like 11 out of 15 players, 12 out of 15 players, something like that. Okay? Similarity number one. The Warriors jettisoned 9 players. Did the Warriors lose as many starters as Miami did? No, they didn't. Okay? But 9 players is not nothing to sneeze at when you're talking about turnover for a team. It doesn't matter if those players are starters. It doesn't matter if those players are backups. Losing 9 players matters. You can take a squad that keeps their entire starting lineup together every year, and I can guarantee you they will begin to struggle if you keep putting them with a different bench every single year. It just doesn't work. It's never been shown to work in sports that you can pay your starters whatever and reticently just jettison and change out your bench and boom, you're going to stay good. No, like the Spurs stayed good because most of their bench was players that they drafted, players that they brought in. You know what I'm saying? And yes, the Warriors did something similar, but that particular year they jettisoned Harrison Barnes and most of the, I believe even Jaja Pachulia, or not Jaja Pachulia, they jettisoned Andrew Bogut as well. So they did lose 2 starters. They lost Bogut and they lost, They lost Festus Ezeli to the Blazers. They lost Leandro Barbosa. He retired. Like, these were all people that, if you knew anything about the Warriors from the year before, were huge during that championship run the year before and were huge during that 73-9 season of getting various things done, helping them out, Maurice Spates, etc. You can laugh at the names that got jettisoned and say, like they didn't really matter. But if you actually look at the stats and the statistics on that Warriors team, they mattered. So the Warriors jettisoned 9 players that mattered to them because you don't keep a good squad together and make a run to back-to-back NBA Finals without having a deep bench. Sorry. Jettison that many players and stay the same squad the next year, even if most of those players that you keep are starters. You don't stay the same squad, and those people who don't understand that, I don't get it. It's a different locker room environment. It's different play on the court. It's different. You can change 2 players out on a team, and it's a different team. So to lose 9 players and have to replace all those bodies just to be able to sign 1 player, that's doing a lot. So but ultimately back to my second point, or my overall point. I'll just leave that one example of each and say this is my overall point. Both teams jettisoned almost over half their team in order to bring in 1 player and then replace him or replace a bunch of role players around him. Both players went to another team to go win their first chip. If you want to tell me that KD went to a better team than LeBron did, like he did that whole scenario better, yeah, I'll agree with you there. But does that make it different? Does that make KD's move weak and LeBron's move justified? No, they're both weak moves. They're both trying to take the weak route to get a championship, supposedly, even though I don't really consider there to be any weak route to get a championship. You got to play the same 82 games as everybody else. You got to win enough games to get into the playoffs, and then you got to win 16 games in the playoffs, which is not hard to do in the NBA regardless of who – which is hard to do in the NBA regardless of who you have on the court. Okay? So at the end of the day, they both took what would be considered easy way out. It's just people don't want to admit that about LeBron because then that diminishes their thought process on him. Then they have to admit that maybe he's not in that GOAT conversation. I personally don't put him there in the first place. So, oh well, he was never there to get so. To begin with, he's done enough statistically during the regular season, but he hasn't shown me enough in the finals to say that he deserves to be in the GOAT conversation. So that's my 1 cent, 2 cent on that whole situation. I'll let y'all enjoy a couple more snippets from VFU, the one you were just beginning to hear, and then from another Amazing Nerd show as well. So y'all listen to those promos real quick. I'll be back in a couple of minutes to talk a little bit more about the Pac-12. Y'all listen to Double K's Classroom right here on the 4Aces Presents Radio Network, Spreaker.com, iHeartRadio, and Spotify.
Hey guys, this is Venice, and I've got a message from a friend of mine about my favorite podcast.
It's your boy, Flavor Flav in full effect. Check this out, everybody. I want y'all to go check out TJ.
What's good, everybody? TJ Johnson here from Voice from the Underground. I am the most handsome.
Big Hass.
And I'm smoking my cigar, of course.
You know what I'm saying? The Dutch.
You pick me up in an Uber and a PT Cruiser, I'm calling Lyft.
Cause they be fighting the power, talking about social issues, politics, you know what I'm saying?
And we're not even that good.
Right, we're terrible. Terrible. Tangents all over the place.
And not only that, but they be keeping it fun with the sports, music, comics, and movies too.
Am I allowed to talk?
I think no, not right now.
Shut up, colonizer!
You know what I'm saying? He on Twitter at VFU Podcast. So you can find them. So check 1, 2. This is Flavor Flav. Yeah, boy.
Okay, what Flav was trying to say is, check out Voice from the Underground on your favorite podcast network.
Voice from the Underground.
Interruption in progress. Now hijacking into ANS 2.0 immersion rig. Now simulating the Amazing Nerd Show. Featuring comics.
And Batman's like, you're safe here and everything, but the Joker all of a sudden pulls out a gun and shoots himself.
Movies.
People fight with lightsabers. What the hell do you want? I mean, in every one of these movies, there's a lightsaber battle.
Yeah, no problem. I'm gonna rewatch it a million times.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, give me something more.
Wrestling.
That would be awesome. Oh my god, just a monster. Fans would be like, holy, what the hell's going on? What happened to Jericho?
Horror.
It starts off like any other like home invasion type of story, and then it just goes crazy.
And more.
Hey, this is Christian.
Hey, this is Dan.
And we are the Amazing Nerd Show.
Make sure to download us on all your favorite podcast platforms.
All right, so that was the boys over there at Voices from the Underground, an Amazing Nerd Show. You guys should check them out on Apple Podcasts as well. All right, so let's get back down to this next part. Sorry about that. To this next section called the South Division. It's kind of a toss-up right now. Utah is the unquestioned favorite. All right, returning quarterback Tyler Huntley and running back Zach Moss. After missing the final 5 games of 2018 with injuries, they got a new play caller in Andy Ludwig. Should help Huntley reach his potential. Their defense ranks amongst the best in college football, anchored by defensive line and standout cornerback Jalen. A great offensive line and standout cornerback Jalen Johnson. Not much separates the rest of the division. This is all according to Athlon Sports. UCLA, USC, Arizona, and Arizona State and ASU and Arizona are in the second tier of the Pac-12 South. The Bruins play better over the second half. Oregon and Washington won't have to play Oregon and Washington in crossover play. Chip Kelly is coming back for his next season at UCLA after having some situation just last year. So at this point, Athlon Sports has Utah winning the division, going 10-3 and facing off against Washington in the Pac-12 championship game. They also have UCLA finishing second at 7-5. SC, Arizona State, and Arizona all finishing at 6-6, with Colorado finishing at 4-8. I don't know about all this. Like, it looks like a good lineup, but I see UCLA probably finishing better. Chip Kelly has had some success. You give him a couple years to recruit his guys. Chip Kelly has a tendency to do good things in college football. Maybe not necessarily in the pros, but in college football, definitely. Utah, like they said, I believe will come back strong, probably a 10-plus win season, but I believe that UCLA may end up with 8 or 9 instead of 7. SC is still rebuilding back from a few years back. They have a lot of talent. Like I said, number one wide receiver group in the conference, but will that be enough to get them above 500? I don't know. Maybe at most their ceiling is 7 wins, maybe 8 if things go really well, but I doubt they're looking at winning the division. Same thing with Arizona State. Same thing with Herman Edwards and all them boys over there. I believe he added Marvin. Damn it, I can't remember the old Bengals coach. He added him as an assistant, so it looks like he'll have an all-pro staff. I could see 6-7 wins out of them, but nothing more. And then, like I say, Arizona and Colorado are looking in between the 4 to 6 range. Neither team really truly improved too much with recruiting this season, but both teams will give a fight because, well, that's what Pac-12 teams do. Now, you can tell me I'm biased because I am to the Pac-12, but that's where I sit. I am a biased person to the Cal Bears as well because I love me some Cal. But as for right now, that's going to be it for this week. I do want to thank you for listening in real quick to my thoughts on the Pac-12 and my thoughts based off of Athlon Sports Stats. And tune in 2 weeks as I talk NFL training camp. San Francisco 49ers the first time around, and it'll be Raiders later in the month. And join me next week when I do K-Double's 5th period music class, and we kick off Boy Band Month with Backstreet Boys and NSYNC. That's right, 2 of your favorites next week on KD5P, K-Double's 5th period music class. Also tune in to Mr. Deacon Experience tomorrow at, I believe, around 7 o'clock Pacific time. Tune into The Saint on MVT and MVT Deuce on Sunday nights, and then also tune in Lip Gloss and Mics on Sunday afternoons. And what else is it? And Brick House. And I'm forgetting a gospel show that we have now on Sunday morning, so just come back and check with us for that one. And then other than that, y'all have a great night. This has been Double K's Classroom. I'm out.